Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katrina and this is so I'm doing a mid-month wrap-up. I thought for some reason that this was going to be a week 1 wrap-up, but this is actually a mid-month wrap-up. So I really haven't done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of floundering around. Let's stop and take notice of my little friends. I didn't have acne growing up as a teenager, and no one told me that I would as a 40-year-old. And then you hear ridiculous stuff where celebrities like J-Lo said that the reason why her skin looks like it does is because of olive oil. And in this week in particular, I'm just annoyed with her because of that, because come on. So let's just start from what I did finish. The Legend of the Skeleton Man. It was a 2-book bound up. So The Legend of the Skeleton Man and The Return of the Skeleton Man. I am so sorry to any person of Native descent when I am reading through these things and just massacring your language. I'm so sorry. Molly's father grew up on the Mohawk Reserve of Akwasansni, where he learned the best scary stories. One of her favorite was The Legend of the Skeleton Man, a gruesome tale about a man with a deadly, insatiable hunger. But ever since her parents mysteriously vanished, those spooky tales have started to feel all too real. And things go from bad to worse for Molly when a stranger shows up one day and claims to be her great uncle. A ghostly thin man she has never seen before, a man who reminds her an awful lot of the Skeleton Man. But he couldn't possibly be the same person from her father's tale, could he? It's up to Molly to uncover the truth about this fearsome figure and rescue her parents before it's too late. This was a very creepy book, but deliciously so. I mistakenly thought that it was for younger kids too, so a lot of things are grouped together in my kids' age range, so it'll say 8 to 12. This is definitely not for an 8-year-old. My daughter doesn't like scary stuff, but she's 11, so I think it would work for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I'm assuming that this is an assumption of mine because I know that a lot of the same societal ills plague Black people as they do Native Americans. We have similar statistics when it comes to certain things. And this was an intact family. They had healthy relations with each other. They were successful. And through the strength of love and the relationship that she had built with her father, she was able to and her bravery, she was able to find her parents. So the bad guy, the Skeleton Man, was very creepy, very relentless, chilling. And I really liked how the stories of her people and the fairy tales all helped Molly in the end to get through the situation she had to get through to find her family. Another thing that I liked, and it especially helped me and touched me as a person who is an ex-evangelical, that's a name that a lot of people who have come out of the evangelical movement, and some people go straight atheist, but I still think that there's a higher power. I just don't know what that looks like. But for those of us who still want spirituality, while Christianity is not necessarily attractive, I love the way Molly, in every way, in her everyday, in her every way, was connected to a bigger thing. So she, at one point, she grabbed this cedar tree to keep from falling at one point when she was about to fall, and she thanked I think it was grandmother. The grandmothers were in the trees, and I think grandfather was the moon. She thanked when there was a lot of moon so that she could see. She thanked grandfather moon. She thanked her ancestors for guiding her. She was constantly in a state of gratefulness. And so I may not co-opt a Native American's religion, but it gave me something to start looking for where I can still practice being connected to a greater spirituality than myself, still find humbleness and gratefulness and meditation. You don't have to, the only place to find it is not in what I find very destructive, what was very destructive for me, with Christianity. All of that wrapped up in a middle grade spooky story. This was amazing. It was I gave it 4 stars. I don't even know why I just gave it 4 stars. And like I said, probably because I probably won't read it again, but I think I might get it to put it on my daughter's shelf so she can read it. And if she wants me to read it to her, I'll read it. So I might up this to a 5-star. So the next book I read for My Heart is a Chainsaw. I actually searched out some Native American reviewers, but no one talked very specifically, like they didn't do focused reviews, the ones that I found, of The Only Good Indians and My Heart is a Chainsaw. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I feel like I'm not connecting because of something cultural. These stories are everything that I should like. Literary horror that have deeper meanings. It's about a girl who is the outcast in town, and she's obsessed with slasher movies. And her dad's an alcoholic and semi-abusive and neglectful, just flat out neglectful. And so there is this brand new, like, rich area being built up on the other side of the lake, and there's a beautiful girl whose family moves in even before the other houses are completed. And one thing I did love about it is that this beautiful girl that just took everyone's attention was a dark-skinned black girl. But Jade is convinced that this girl is a final girl because there's some murders that happened before she even got there. And when she sees how beautiful and virginal and whatever that this other girl is, she is convinced that this is it. We're in our own actual slasher movie. She's the final girl. And there's these interspersed in between the chapters, there's these like extra credit papers she does for her history teacher, where she goes in depth about the slasher genre. And toward the end, when they confront her because the girl who is supposedly the final girl is convinced that her fantasies are masking something else, and she brings in the town sheriff, who is just an exhausted guy who's trying to do the good thing, and she pulls in the history teacher as well, because he's been getting these for as long as she was in his class, as long as Jade was in his class. So she bounds them all up, brings them together, and they try to do an intervention. And when Jade first gets there, she thinks, "Oh, you got these people here. Let's go get this taken care of." And then it slowly dawns on her, no, they think something's wrong. And the history teacher is just like, oh, I shouldn't have let this go on so long, because like I said, he's been getting these long papers about this obsession that she has. And so it ends up being a slasher in the end. It was very, very long. So yeah, that 400 pages might mean something. The things that she was going over in her mind, it's all in Jade's mind, and we're going over and over and over it. And so there might be something that in some of the imagery or something like that that I'm missing. I really felt for Jade. She was an unlikable, she's one of the few unlikable characters that I understood, maybe because she was a teenager, maybe because I had a terrible childhood, but I understood her awkward, angry, impulsive behavior. I totally understood it. And so I really cared for her. But beyond that, I stuck through it, but by the time the end ratcheted up, I still didn't get what happened even. And I had to go on Reddit, and there was multiple people asking on Reddit, what happened in the end? So even with all of that build up, it was confusing in the end as to what happened. And I wanted to keep giving it a chance because it's Indigenous Month, and I feel like when it comes to Black and Native American writers, I owe them a chance. And I'm going to put up this political cartoon that kind of explains why I try so hard, and I'm so disappointed when I don't enjoy an African American written cozy or mystery, or why I keep trying with Stephen Graham Jones and trying to get into the mind frame, even though I feel like I'm missing something. And it's because now Stephen Graham Jones doesn't fit this bill, but not as many people, Native Americans or Black people, are getting the push that Riley Sager or Ruth Ware gets on BookTube and stuff like that. So any of us that can add our little drop and try to keep on adding drops until we have a full-on lake and then an ocean of push for people who are normally looked over, I'm gonna try. And so I feel like, I feel bad speaking ill or giving bad scores to Native American books. And again, like I said, I know Stephen Graham Jones doesn't fit into it because he's successful and everything like that. So the next book I read was The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. One thing that I think was a little off-putting was the sound mixing wasn't very well it wasn't done very well on the audiobook. The male narrator was very crisp and clear and loud, and the female narrator was very muffled and low, so that was very frustrating. And it didn't help that I didn't like her character as well, so I was annoyed with the narrator and then I didn't like the character. Nate has a very abusive father who dies and leaves him a home. He doesn't want to go back to the home. He, just basically goes, no, I don't want it, and leaves the lawyer's office. But then his son, Oliver, has an incident. His boy has like the shining, but not like seeing the future, but he can empathize with people in a way that is not something we find in our world. And he took on everyone's fear when they were having the active shooter drills that people have to do, and he wet his pants, and it was very, very embarrassing for him. And so he wanted to move, and so the dad had to go back. Nate had to go back and say, okay, I'll take the house. So they move out there, and obviously immediately weird things happen. Nate sees his dad at one point. He sees his dad a couple times, and it's like, it's written like it's really not a ghost. That's what you're led to believe, but it's so real feeling that it's like this is something else. And that does come around. That was one really cool thing, how that comes back around. You don't forget it 500 pages later, but it does loop back around and has a very, very clear explanation. By the middle of the book, we're talking portals to different worlds, different versions of all these characters coming through those portals, people being sucked into portals and being separated from family members, demons. the mom can make things that come to life. Never explained why. The Book of Accidents that has a purpose in the beginning and then it stops having a purpose. Why? First part was really good, but the last part of it dragged, and there were a lot of questions left up in the air with this one. I didn't rate it yet. If I had the energy, you can tell probably I'm low energy. If I had the energy to co-pilot, I would guess that it would be probably a 2.5, 3-star. So those are the books that I actually got through. And some of the ones that I am currently reading is Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia. I'm taking a lot of notes, and so I don't know why I thought I would finish this in a week. It's not like even difficult. Like it's talking about fat people and black people and slave trade and stuff, but it's coming from a very it's a sideways specialized point of view. The next book I'm reading currently is called Wolf Gone Wild, and it's like the perfect book for me. It is a paranormal romance, and I'm not loving it. And I know most of the people that watch my channel are not romance people, but it should be right up my alley. And I'm just one of my favorite romance YouTubers, Riley, she gave it 5 stars. So I really feel like I just need to come back to it. This is another one where I'm going to give it a chance, specifically because it's a black author, and I'm just being honest about that because I really do feel like, she deserves a chance. What's so cool about it, it's Tamron Hall. She's a news person, and she had a talk show, and she's writing a book, and I just thought that was so cool. And also I love that, we all in this country really get hyped up about, oh, this person was 19 when they opened their first business, or they made their first million when they were 24. I particularly love stories about people who write their first book when they're 70s or stuff like that. And Tamron Hall, she has been doing her whole life. She's been a successful journalist and all that stuff this whole time. But she had her first baby at 48, and she kept it a secret because she knew she was pushing it, because we didn't know she had a husband. We didn't know she was pregnant. She had a baby and had her and her husband in the picture all in one. It was so funny. And then now, so like I said, journalist, talk show host, now a writer, and she's 51, raising a family. And it's just, I love stories of people who are just still doing what they want to do in the later parts of their life, because half the time you are told the message is you're 40, you're 30. I mean, it's getting lower. It's, you're 30 years old, life is over. So sadly though, it's not catching my attention. It's coming off quite preachy, and it's stuff that I agree with. It's a story about, it's a story as old as time, where there's a little black girl who goes missing. No Amber Alert is put out for her, no attention. The police are not giving any attention to the situation, and it ends up being a tragedy. And then at one point she asks her white cameraman to they're gonna do a early morning shoot, but they want to eat breakfast, they want to eat somewhere, and she's like, Saturday is always my time to be around my people and eat at this down home kind of place, and it's all black. And the guy scoffs a little bit, and it's set up early on that he's one of her best friends. So, and this is a good way to talk about this, because I still have to talk to my husband about stuff, and we've been married 14 years and he has children, but that doesn't stop the divide sometimes between the understanding of a man and a woman, a white man and a black woman, we're diametrically opposed, in a lot of our experiences and stuff like that. And there's weird little things that I'll have to say, think about what you just said. And that was something that, so it's not like this guy was just a racist or anything. It's her friend. They work well together. The character thinks about times that he rescued her from crazy situations and stuff like that. So not a bad guy or anything like that, but he kind of scoffs at being the only white guy at this restaurant. And she's like, how many times have I been the only black person somewhere? And he just shut up like, oh, I get it. And there's another situation like that where he assumes that these black guys were just kind of loitering outside, and she was like, that was a bus stop, how did you not see that was a bus stop? And he was like, oh. And so I like that's realistic. That's very realistic. But in those realistic situations, instead of just calling him out and letting the reader kind of just absorb that information, she goes on to do a whole speech. I speechify sometimes. I'm very much a lecturer, and that's something my dad did and that I inherited. And my husband will have to tell me to, like, if I'm lecturing the kids about something, he's like, okay, they got it, So I get that, but an editor should have kind of told her that that's not quite how people talk, or people don't want to read it maybe in a book. So I was just about to say I talk that way, but that's not good. So I put that in my will revisit. Now I haven't decided. I was reading The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I really don't like the main character. Everybody says that she is unlikable, and there's a reason. She was the final girl twice of someone trying to kill her. So she's obsessive, she's abrasive and things like that. But I don't care about the group. I don't care. Nothing But Blackened Teeth. Couldn't get into the story. I accidentally picked up another book by Dan Simmons, Not Paying Attention. I like things that say haunting, like hauntings of something, and it was a winter haunting, and it had a haunted looking house and snow on it. And I was like, ooh, if it's a winter haunting, it'll be a horror story that'll kind of not be focused on more autumnal Halloween vibes. And I was getting bored by it. And I was like, how is a haunting story bored? And I looked at it, it was Dan Simmons. And I also have another book that I just have, Alexa stop, that I have her reading to me from a free Kindle book that I got. And it's just a simple little paranormal cozy mystery called Reservations. So that every once in a while at night I'll play it. For the kids, I'm reading The Last Day of Summer by Lamar Giles. I'm really enjoying this, and my son is too. He keeps saying, oh, this is an adventure. Like he said it like the last 2 nights. This is an adventure. These little boys, it starts out, and I was like, it starts in media res. I had to go back and see, did we get like the second or third book, because it kept referring to all these other adventures that the boys had gotten keys to the city for. It's weird stuff in the county, so it's like portals opening up, and right now things are frozen, like some weird guy came in and gave him a gift of a camera. He started taking pictures and it froze their county. So they're trying to figure out what to do about that. And it not only froze the county, but it allowed all these monsters to come traipsing through. So they're trying to figure out that situation. And we're back with my daughter. She's reading with me again. I think my sister got on her. She told her, you need to read with your mom. So we're back to the 3rd book in the School for Good and Evil series. We read the 1st and 2nd one, took a break, read a bunch of other books, and then she went through that time where she wasn't reading with me, and so she came in and asked to read the 3rd book. Let me know what your last 2 weeks of reading has been like. Did you realize it was 2 weeks into November? let's use this as our end of the video emoji. Be easy on yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.